Hey, I'm Cotton Vale, and my story starts with a trash bag, $12 in crumpled bills, and a door slamming shut when I was just 17. My dad handed me that bag, told me to learn something, and turned away. 13 years later, that same family, who never sent a birthday card, who spread lies about me choosing the streets, showed up on my doorstep, eyeing my 750 zalazan home, pleading, "We're struggling." I looked them in the eyes and said, "I already survived my struggle. Before I dive into this, I need to know you're with me. Drop listening in the comments or share where you're tuning in from. I love seeing how far my story travels. Even the smallest nod makes this feel like a conversation. Thank you." Here's how I went from a trash bag to a life so strong, they came begging for a piece of it. If you believe no one should be cast out for speaking truth, hit subscribe and stick with me to the end. Every listener helps turn pain into something powerful. Picture a quiet morning, the lake outside our kitchen still as a mirror. I'm setting plates on our worn pine table, the smell of coffee curling up from Dad's mug. He's buried in the Durango Herald, his old chief's tan line barely visible on his wrist. When he speaks, it's like a judge delivering a sentence. "Trent's the hair. You're just the spare." The words linger, heavy, as I scrub dishes, pretending the ache in my chest is from the steam. Mom adjusts the plates I've already straightened, like nothing I do fits her mold. My brother, Trent, strolls in, varsity jacket slung over his shoulder, tapping his cleats on the tile just to hear the clack. His smirk says he's heard Dad's line before. That night, the lake catches a sliver of moonlight, and music drifts from a graduation party up the hill. Then I hear it, a screech of tires, a sickening crunch. My skin prickles. I race to the road. Our family pickup is smashed against a power pole, steam hissing from the hood. Through the shattered windshield, Trent's face is pale, blood streaking from his temple into his jacket. The air reeks of gasoline and cheap beer. He grabs my arm, voice shaking. "Don't tell Dad. He'll kill me." Across the street, a hardware store's sign flickers, its tiny camera blinking under the awning. No sirens. No neighbors. Just the lake lapping and Trent trembling against me, begging me to cover for him. I made a choice I thought was love. In our garage, still smelling of oil and cut grass, I told Dad I took the truck and crashed it. He didn't ask questions, didn't look for proof. His voice was flat. "You've shamed us enough." Mom stepped around me like I was a misplaced chair, grabbed a trash bag, and swept my clothes off hangers. She tucked a folded note into the plastic and said, "You're on your own. Figure it out." I counted $12, damp from forgotten laundry, as the Civic's headlights cut across the driveway. The door clicked shut. I slept under a bus shelter that night, its harsh light turning my skin bruised blue. The trash bag was my pillow, the cold bench biting through my jeans. I could still smell Dad's aftershave, Trent's beer, the gasoline. I whispered SAT vocab and math formulas to keep the fear from swallowing me. My grandma's voice broke through, sharp as ever. "You've got the guts they don't, kid. Hold tight." Dawn came with a lake-scented breeze, and I woke with a plan, because plans are like air. I showered at the rec center for $2. Scribbled a list on a receipt, a job, a bed, a name. I told myself if I took the fall, maybe it meant I was worth something. But I learned fast that being useful to people who only take is a dead end. Some moments still flash clear as day. Trent's jacket sticking to his bloodied arm. The pickup's nose crumpled into that pole. The camera's red light winking like it saw everything. The Civic's tire parked on the driveway's oil stain. A mark I could trace blind. I left that house with next to nothing, but it was enough to start. Durango became Longmont when a kind woman named Valdez at Evergreen Market gave me a shot stocking shelves. She didn't do pity, just handed me a schedule and pointed to the clock. I taped my savings to a notebook, 20% always, in Sharpie, and slept on cardboard in the back room, waking before the morning crew. I studied marketing on library computers, jotting down strategies on receipts. How to tell a story that sells, how to make a burrito at Pop. That first ad for a food truck sold out their stock by 10 a.m. It was the first time my work turned into cash in my hand. From there, I built a life. Because when no one writes your story, you pick up the pen. Word count: 350 words, matches original. The discovery hit like a splinter under a nail. Scrolling through old message boards, most posts were digital dust. I'd forgotten noise from a decade ago. Then I saw a thread with my name tangled up with Trent's. Time-stamped from the night of the wreck. Near the bottom, a grayed-out message, forwarded by mistake years back when phones could still snitch on you. Glared at me so easy to make him disappear. The room stayed steady, but I didn't. I snapped a picture of the screen with my phone, backed it up on 3 drives, and tucked the SD card into an envelope marked with the date and one word Z, hold. Outside, I sank onto the library steps, the concrete cool against my palms, and read that line until my rage cooled into something sharp and clear. I didn't fire off texts or call my dad in Durango. Instead, I chose a quieter rebellion build now, talk when it counts. Money carves out a silence no one else can touch. Proof without strength is just a wound you retell. By 25, I could map my journey with a finger and a smirk. Durango to Longmont, then Boulder, finally Fort Collins, where trees curve over College Avenue like a prayer. I rented a room for 6 months, then bought a cedar-sided house with a porch, just big enough for 2 chairs and a sunrise. When I signed the deed, the title agent pushed the folder across the desk like it carried the weight of a decade. At home, I stashed a trash bag, same brand they'd used, under my sink and bought proper plates. I filed my LLC with the state, naming it Horizon Pulse Media, a title I'd scribbled on napkins for years. It meant I wasn't what they'd labeled me. The horizon shifts, and I'd shift with it. Some nights, when the house felt too still, and the lake breeze inside me stirred, I'd hold that envelope with the SD card and blurry photo, not to hurt myself, but to remember where my backbone fused. One morning, running along the Poja River, I pictured the hardware store camera, the angle of Mom's Civic tire on that oil slick, the light glinting off Baker's awning. Once meaningless, those details now stitched me back to the truth. I didn't know how they'd align, but I knew the map was mine. Then came the billboard. I wasn't meant to see it, just driving down Route 287, coffee in hand, glancing at the clock. But there I was, my face looming against the sky, framed by bold letters, Young Entrepreneurs of Colorado. It felt exposing, like someone had aired a truth I hadn't shared. For a moment I saw vulnerability, not victory. The kid who hid behind a trash bag, now 30 feet tall, grinning beside local success story. I pulled into a gas station, cut the engine, and let the wind rattle the car's antenna. It was just a small-town nod, I told myself. But deep down, I knew recognition pulls back the ones who once turned away. The text started before I got home. "Is that you, Mom?" Then Dad's name flashed on my phone. A call I let ring out. By night, my inbox brimmed with cousins I hadn't heard from since I was 17. "They're so proud of you" messages heavy with expectation. I didn't reply. Silence felt purer. Mom's voicemail came next, her voice wobbling between cheer and strain. "Trent and Alyssa are struggling. They might lose their place. The baby's coming. Got that spare room?" I laughed softly at spare room. I didn't have a spare anything. I'd bought this house, every cedar plank in Mountain View, paid in cash. I switched off my phone and scanned my living room, the hum of the air purifier, the faint coffee scent from breakfast. This calm was mine, and I wouldn't trade it for guilt dressed up as family. That night, I wrote 3 rules in my journal. No uninvited guests, no loans, no exceptions. Everything in ink. I taped it inside, a promise to the person I'd become. 2 weeks later, a beige envelope arrived, stamped with an official seal. Notice of administrative lien. It tied me to an old Durango insurance claim, dated the month of the crash, My social security number listed. My chest tightened. The code referenced non-disclosure of driver identity. My name had shielded Trent's DUI, my signature forged. I wasn't just their scapegoat. I was their ghost, propping up their clean slate. I leaned back, staring at my reflection in the dark window. The kid who took the fall out of loyalty was now the man whose identity they'd rewritten. I breathed slow. 4 in, 7 hold, 8 out. Not for calm, but for focus. The anger I'd buried at 17 didn't scream. It glowed steady. In the mirror, under the desk lamp's light, I said aloud, "You're not their spare anymore." I drafted an email to every relative who'd stayed silent, listing facts, records, timelines, scans. I didn't send it. Truth needed more than words. It needed proof that couldn't be twisted. I saved the draft and shut my laptop. Mom called again. I deleted the voicemail before it played. For the first time, I felt solid. The past was stirring, but I'd choose where it landed. That night, the billboard on the 287 glowed faintly, my smile staring back through the dark. It wasn't success it captured. It was survival. It was a Sunday afternoon, the kind where sunlight softens every edge. Leaves in Fort Collins were turning gold and crimson, drifting across my lawn. I'd just left a client meeting, coffee stain on my shirt, when I spotted a silver Honda Civic parked at my curb. My hand froze on my car key. The hood shimmered with heat, and there, on my porch, sat Mom, clutching a Tupperware container that screamed guilt. I considered driving off, but she looked up, smiling like we hadn't skipped 13 years. "Caden," she said, voice too bright, "you look great." The scent of banana bread hit me before her words. "Why are you here, Mom?" "Just in the area," she said. Like 120 miles from Durango was a quick jaunt. Thought we could catch up. I stepped onto the porch but kept my distance. "Is Trent okay?" Her smile wavered. "He and Alyssa lost their apartment. With the baby coming, they need a place, just for a bit." The words echoed the rustle of that old trash bag in my hands. I glanced past her. A dark truck idled half a block down, headlights glinting through the trees. I knew who it was. "You sent me away with 12 and a note," I said softly. "Told me to learn from it. Now you want my peace for the son you chose over me." She blinked, smile gone. It was complicated then. We thought it was right. "No," I said. "You chose easy." She flinched, but the shame twisted defensive. "You've done well, haven't you? Maybe it wasn't so bad." I nearly laughed. She was claiming my survival. "You're not coming in," I said, reaching for the door. Her voice tightened. "You're being selfish." I turned. "No, I'm done being useful." I stepped inside, shut the door. Through the frosted glass, her shadow lingered, then retreated. The Civic's engine hummed, but it didn't leave right away. I waited 5 minutes 10. On the security monitor, the wide-angle view showed her car at the curb. Trent's old blue pickup across the street, mismatched panels still limping from the crash. Through the camera's mic, faint static carried a voice, "He'll cave." "Mom's got the guilt trip down." I froze. She wasn't here to reconnect, she was bait. I hit record. Saved the file to a folder labeled proof, and snapped screenshots license plate, timestamp every second of their charade. When their taillights faded, I stood in the hallway, the wall clock ticking softly. I opened my notebook and added a line beneath my rules. "If they return, I won't stay quiet." The sun dipped, painting the sky rust red. I watched light spill across the porch where she'd stood. The word family felt like a warning now, not a warmth. I poured a glass of water and sat until the room darkened. A lawnmower hummed down the street. A kid's laugh carried through the fence. Small sounds that reminded me peace has a price. In the window's reflection, I saw a man where a boy once stood, choosing silence on his own terms. This was just the start. Hollister's knock woke me at 5 a.m., sharp as a gavel. We ran 5 miles along the frontage road, mist curling over the fields, then did push-ups and pull-ups under a steel, gray sky. Listen to your heartbeat, he'd say, and the chatter in your head quiets. I logged it all in a worn notebook. Miles, reps, the clear thought that came after the third mile. Slowly, my body felt like mine again, like I'd been leasing it and finally paid it off. Hollister eased me into work at Sentinel North, starting with radio inventory, then wiring cameras on a site where concrete smelled like rain. I learned to scan a perimeter without looking like I was, to know when eye contact soothed or sparked. No one pried about my past. They cared if I showed up and did the job right. The pay was modest, but respect was its own reward. I banked it like a man starved. You've been knocked around, Hollister said, head and heart. He drove me to a clinic to meet Dr. Monroe Hale, ex-Army medic with calm eyes and steady hands. I said I was fine. She let silence sit until it weighed more than words. When I spoke, it spilled out. Sleep like falling into a room where Sable sobbed and pointed. Waking convinced the cops were at the door. You're not scared of the dark, she said, but of the story they pinned there. Naming it didn't fix it, but it gave me ground to stand on. One night alone in the cabin, I found my name on an old message board, tied to the same cruel phrases that once trailed me. My hands shook. I wanted to punch the air. Hollister, reading by the stove, didn't look up. Truth isn't on that screen, he said. Earn it in your life. Later, I traced phone records and found the number tied to those messages pinged my parents' home network. I saved it, closed the laptop, and let the quiet anger settle, unsure if I wanted to crack that wall open. Sentinel North offered me a full-time role in March. Hollister slid the contract across the table, a coffee mug pinning it like a mission order. Men who lose it all and keep going. They're good teammates, he said. I signed, and it felt like stepping onto solid ground. Work didn't erase guilt, it gave it edges. On a night job, a teammate fell from shaky scaffolding I'd noticed but hadn't flagged. He broke his ankle, survived. I sat on the curb, head in hands, while ambulance lights flashed red and blue. Hollister crouched beside me. You're not God, he said. You're a guy doing his best. That's enough if you let it be. I carried that lesson like a hidden weight. Forgiving myself for being human felt like learning a language I should have known. By spring, Helena's hills turned green, and I ran alone, cresting a ridge to watch the town wake. The view didn't feel like a threat anymore. I didn't save you from death, Hollister said one evening, cleaning rifles in the dusk. I showed you how to live. He grinned. And someone's gonna remind you trust is worth the gamble. I didn't argue, just oiled the bolt and watched the sun sink behind the pines. Hollister sent me to Seattle for a satellite team, a job laced with trust and pressure. At a gallery opening on Capitol Hill, I stood by a window's reflection, cutting the room into sharp angles. That's when I saw her, Juniper Vale, speaking to a collector with blunt honesty, done with pretense. She passed me, noted my stance. You're like a statue. Statues don't tire, I said, a half smile. Maybe they're just better at hiding it. I did my job, checked exits, kept the perimeter clear. Later she emailed, inviting me to her studio. We walked among canvases smelling of linseed and storm. I shared a pared-down truth. My family misjudged me, and it nearly broke me. She didn't flinch, told me her father taught her pain with a belt and a locked door, and survival made her obsessive about light. We weren't mirrors, but we heard the same echo. Back at Sentinel North, a contract listed my dad's old firm. It shook me, like finding a crack in the floor. I showed Hollister. He shrugged. If a name stops you, you're not free. I kept the contract, my hand unsteady on the pen. Juniper joined me at the range one Saturday. I taught her